Greetings, I am David Kong, the founder and principal of DI Advisors. Today, we're delighted to welcome Craig Bond, the managing director of La Vie Hotels and Resorts, to our show. Craig is an industry veteran, and he has been in the Asia Pacific region for many years. It's a great delight to welcome you, Craig.
David, thank you so much and for this great opportunity. And it's wonderful to see you, and it's a real pleasure to have you interview me today.
Wonderful. It's great to have you. Craig, let's start with your career journey. You've had a very exciting career journey. Can you share with us some of the inflection points and the factors that drove your success?
Sure, love to. I guess I can share with you how it all started in the beginning. And I grew up in Newcastle, which is about an hour and a half north of Sydney. And I always wanted to be in the hospitality business. My parents were in the hospitality business across many different sectors within hospitality. So I walked into a door of a 100-key property that was on the beach, and I asked to speak to the manager. And I was only 17 years of age, and I asked for a job. And they said to me, "What experience do you have?" And I said, "Well, really only from seeing my mum and dad and how they've worked in industry." And she goes, "You know what, I really like you, but you don't have any experience in food and beverage." And she says, "So I like you, I'm going to give you an opportunity. But what you're going to do is that 50% of the hotel faces the ocean. So every day I'd like you to come in and you're going to go into every room under the balcony and clean the salt air off the glass every day." And that's how I got my first, I guess, opportunity into the hospitality business. And once that I demonstrate, I turn up to work on time, I was conscientious. And eventually then she gave me the manager, who was the owner, it was an owner-operated hotel, put me into banquets and moved me into weddings and taught me how to carry 3 plates and how to do just general banquet service. So that was my entry into hospitality many, many years ago. So it was quite, I guess, exciting for a young guy to get a job and someone that took a chance on me. And that really resonates with how I am as a leader today.
That's the best way to start from the bottom, and certainly your work ethic shone through even in those early days. But thinking back your journey, what are some of the factors that drove your success?
Look, I think it's really about putting yourself out there and taking a risk. I think in life, if you don't take a risk, they can be certainly calculated in many ways, but sometimes to navigate those risks is very difficult. And I also remember I was 23 years of age, and I got the opportunity for my first general manager position. And I was pretty young at 23, and 23, you think you know it all. But looking back at it, my gosh, I was very green. But, you have confidence in what you believe that you know, and you do something that scares you. So I remember that at that stage of my life, this opportunity was for a 30-key resort in North Queensland. But it was going into receivership. So I went through the interview process with the recruitment company, and then they said, "Well, it's actually just gone into receivership." And I went, "Well, what do? Do I take the opportunity?" So I did, but I had to pay for my own airfare to get there. It was about an hour and a half south of Cairns, which is in North Queensland. I had to pay for my own transfer to get there. So I took the risk. I paid for myself to get there. We were running on the old Whitney system back in the day, so there was no PC. I run the hotel out of a petty cash tin because it was going to receivership. Long story short, because I did what I did and I believed in that I could make a difference, is that the resort ended up getting sold. It got sold to a very prominent hotelier, had retired. We doubled the size of the resort. I got taught opera, Mycross. I got a wonderful mentor, leader to work with, who believed in me, because when he came to look to buy the resort, I checked him in, I served him breakfast, I brought his bags down, because that's what you had to do. So that was a really great moment in my career on doing something that scares you a lot, that puts yourself out there, that takes that risk, and something that I continue to do today.
That's a great story, and that's certainly a common theme that we've found throughout our many interviews. Successful leaders take risks. They have a belief in themselves, and so in your case, you believe in yourself, and whatever you didn't know, you knew that you could figure it out. and you're not afraid to put yourself out there. That's why you've become so successful. So congratulations to you. Thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah, thank you, David.
You spent many years in the Asia Pacific region, and we know the region is far from homogeneous. It's comprised of many different countries, each with its own culture, language, and how business is done also varies greatly from country to country. To be successful, you have to embrace diversity and inclusion, and you've assimilated yourself very well into the region. Can you share some of the lessons that you've learned and provide some tips on how one can embrace diversity and inclusion?
Yeah, look, great question. And, inclusion and diversity across multiple countries is something that I still challenge in many different ways today, not only with myself, but because I'm now based back in Australia. I've worked across, I think, 13 different countries across Asia. But now I'm working with a team that have not had that exposure. So what I've learned now, I'm actually now bringing back to my workplace to actually help my team along to actually understand the cultural differences. But first of all, from my perspective, I've always been a great believer in reading people's, regardless if the language barrier there, but you can read people's faces. You can see in people's eyes that yes does not necessarily mean yes. Reaffirming in a certain way and to confirm what you've just said, so there is an understanding. I think for me, it's about bringing people together. By bringing people together, you then create a level of confidence, comfort, trust, especially when you're working in different countries and you're in their country. So I'm a big believer that food brings people together in most countries. So and embracing local cuisine and culinary delights, and especially from different regions throughout where they live. So for me, it's about bringing people together by food, because it doesn't matter which country you're in, it works. I think also it's about I've tried to learn. I'm not very good at being multilingual, but learning those the basics. It really goes a long way. It's like when you get in a taxi and you can speak some basic language. The taxi driver automatically goes, okay, you're not a tourist, and people's perception of you changes. So I think learn the basics, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but you really are respected by that. The other thing I really is very important is understanding the cultural celebrations of a country, the religious ceremonies, understanding them, being involved in them, asking the questions what it's about. I think it's about being very respectful. So, as I said before, when you may give a direction to one of your team and they go like this, and you can see in their eyes that they'd have got no idea what you're talking about. So it's about no problem asking the question, or getting someone to help you that may know the language better, depending on what level they're at. And I really enjoy it. I think it's I don't see it as a challenge. I really see that embracing different cultures is such a wonderful gift to be able to have in my life, and now for me to be able to share that with my team. And I really love. It's a great story. I have. My group director of sales and revenue, and she's grew up in Australia. She has a very young family. Her husband's in the military, so he traveled a lot. She didn't. She brought up the family, and that when I employed her, our company was quite small, and we've just grown so quick. And so I've just picked her up and put her in. She's been to Thailand, she's been to Sri Lanka, she's been to Bangladesh, she's been to the Maldives, and her eyes have just gone like this. And to see and watch and be part of her journey and really putting her into multicultural environments has just been wonderful. And the more that I can continue to do that, I will continue to do so.
Thanks for sharing your experience. You had a lot of very important lessons in what you just said. And I really like what you mentioned about bringing people together, especially through a meal. One thing that's universal in Asia is everyone likes to eat.
So do I. That's why sometimes the pants get a bit tight when you travel so much. Everyone, let's eat. And unfortunately, I love food so much, so I love it, but it can be dangerous.
Yeah, in Asian culture, we do believe in bringing people together through a meal. It's the best way to connect. And I appreciate sharing those stories.
Thank you.
And the other thing that you did not mention, but I'm sure is implied, is you're being comfortable with diversity. some people are just not comfortable in a foreign country, and it's hard to assimilate yourself when you are uncomfortable. So the fact that you were comfortable with that means that you can embrace adversity so much easier.
A very good point, David. You need to be comfortable, but sometimes you may not be comfortable. But you have to put yourself out there, and sometimes it can be a little bit scary. And I have this saying that I learned many years ago: just do something at least once every day that scares you, that just puts out of your comfort zone. And I try to bring that message to everyone that I work with. It's okay. Like people will say to me, Craig, you get up on stage, you speak, and you just look so comfortable. I said, believe me, I am so nervous every time I get up on that stage. And I said, being nervous is okay. Nervous energy is great.
Yeah, nervous, I believe in that also. The nervous energy actually gives you the excitement and passion. It's a good thing.
Yes, agree.
Talk about alignment, because you are in the Asia Pacific region. You have a diverse team, and your team members are located not only in Australia, but throughout the region. How do you create alignment?
Yeah, it's creating alignment is one thing, but also creating alignment across the different countries. Operate sometimes when people have not even been to that country before and may not even understand the culture. Or sometimes I've got an expat sitting in that country that's working with another country in another country that's not an expat. So first of all, I like people to meet as much as I can. I mean, working across countries, and it's come out of COVID, of course, it's been a lot of Zoom, which I still think is great. But again, bringing people together to meet, feel the pulse of the people within the organization. I always say that, or if you cannot do that, please pick up the phone. I was saying to my team yesterday is that we spend too many emails, right? And emails are there for a purpose. They're important. But if you pick up the phone or have a Zoom like we're doing today, where you can see people, even, might be able to feel the pulse, but you can still, read one's face, read one's, the smile and their facial expressions. So for me, it's about bringing people together in the first instance. So I try at least to say, go and meet. Once you meet someone and you build that relationship, it makes it much easier when you have to talk about the tough things. It's great when you can also celebrate, but just being able to meet. So that's one thing that I really am big on, is bringing people together. For example, we've just employed a brand new regional general manager into Sri Lanka. We operate 3 Radisson properties in Sri Lanka. And he's currently based in Singapore. So before he goes into that role, I bring him into our corporate office into Sydney. He can meet the team. We can take him through the organization. We'll take him for a meal. We'll then send him through to our Bangkok regional office, meet the team in Thailand as well. Before then, he goes off. So it's about setting people up for success. But back to the question, connect, speak more, feel the pulse of people. And again, it comes back to understanding the culture as well, because once you understand the culture and there's a level of respect and understanding, that goes a long way once you meet people as well.
Yeah, very well said. I agree with everything that you just said. It's about connecting, forming a relationship, and helping people understand the various culture. It's just everything that you said is very sound.
And we're in the people business, David. We're in the people business.
That's true. That's why we're in the travel business, right? Because there's nothing like traveling to a destination and meeting people.
We're so lucky. So lucky.
Yes. You have been known in the industry as an innovator, and sometimes I find it difficult to find inspiration. How do you find inspiration to drive innovation?
Again, a number of things. You put yourself out there. I like to educate others as much as I like to be educated. By doing that I spend a lot of time meeting people, speaking to people, attending conferences, because it's not just about learning what's happening now, but learn from the past. We have such rich history in this business, and there is some amazing leaders, just like yourself. I mean, you're an amazing leader, David, and what you've done for the industry, can we learn from what you have brought to the business, because we don't have to change everything just for the sake of change. So history for me is very important. So connecting with people, and a lot of the time it's connecting with some CEOs like, such as yourself. It's these conferences that you have the opportunity to be able to connect with leaders that you aspire to. So for me, again, travel, connect, go to other people's businesses, sometimes learn from outside of our business, because what we do in the hospitality business, we can learn from other businesses as well. It does not necessarily have to come from within our organization. And I think sometimes, innovation from outside only makes us better as what we do today. So for me, it's connect, travel, learn, listen, walk up to those people that is David Kong, you may not have met before, and introduce yourself, because I always say that what happens when we go to a cocktail party in general, we walk in the room, we look to say, who do we know? And you go straight to that crowd of people that you know. And I say to my team, go to the people you don't know. And that's how you find inspiration, because sometimes when you do that and you put yourself out there, you go, wow, I wasn't expecting to get that out of that.
I love that. I totally agree with you.
It's true. We're all guilty of it sometimes,
I love that. Let's ask you a related question, which is about strategic agility. We live in a very fast-changing world, and certainly technology and Internet of Things are fastly changing the way that we do business. And there's so many disruptors that enter our business, and they redefine the rules of the game. Mm-hmm. And to be strategically agile is really important as a leader. How do you become more agile strategically?
Wow. I mean, it's a big question. You talk about, the internet and technology, and we know in our business that we're not always the innovators when it comes to technology. And to being agile, I think it's about longevity. Technology moves so quickly, and in our business, we just don't have the luxury to be able to keep up with it. So I think for me to be agile and for our business to be more agile, it's like we need to do our homework. Yeah, because there is so much opportunity. There's so many people selling you things. There's so much new technology coming out there. But you have to just choose what is right for you and what is right for your business, where your business is at right now. And it could come down to budgetary constraints. It could be to manpower, being able to roll it out. So for me, it's about the agility of our business is being able to do what we do well, stretch ourselves, yes, but just make sure what we do it well, and we actually complete the task from A to Z. Because I find as a growing business, we want to do everything now. We want to do everything quick. The manpower may not be there, so the execution is not where we want it to be. So for us to be more agile, it's about staying in our lane, doing what we do well, try to make the right decisions by research. And as I said, stretch ourselves, but just make sure the stretch is achievable stretch. Otherwise, I find that the team can become, as I said, I don't mind pushing the team, but it's about having some clear goals and winning those goals and achieving those goals and celebrating. Because I think as part of being agile is also being able to celebrate as well.
Yeah, you're right. We have to set stretch goals in order to be more agile strategically, but also want to make sure that we don't set people up to fail, because then it becomes disheartening and people lose their drive. Yeah, so well said. We've all had our fair share of setbacks and disappointments. I know you've had them. How do you overcome them and use them as learning opportunities and eventually prevail? Sure.
I have a great example, and many of us went through it. And I really don't like talking about COVID, because I like to say COVID's no longer here. But during COVID, I was made redundant. I was in Thailand, and I was the number 2 of a very large hospitality company. We had about 55 properties in 10 countries, and I was made redundant. And I went, oh my gosh, I've never been out of work in my life. It was like, first of all, it just. I knew it was going to happen, but when it actually did happen, wow, this is failure. And my wife says to me, and she'd moved back to Australia because her mum wasn't well and I was still living in Bangkok. And she goes, this is okay. She goes, you've worked so hard over your career. Why don't you take 1 year off and just really enjoy yourself and think about what you want to do? And I went, that's just the best advice ever, because I wasn't even thinking like that. I'm thinking, what's the next job? Networking, getting on the phone, talking to people. And I'm straight into that survival mode and doing what you do. And I went, wow, this is actually, I've never been in this position where I'm telling myself to stop. So it was a really wonderful experience, because that's exactly what I did. And my wife said, why don't you go and sit on a beach for a year? Because there's no one on the beach. It's empty. It's COVID. And so that really made me stop, made me think what mattered, and gave me that opportunity to reset, and that I've never done before. And which brought me to the job that I'm in today, where, I met the owner, the founder of the company, and we had a really nice journey of about 6 months getting to know each other. And it's a startup business, right? So so I'd just been through redundancy, scared me, went on a little break, think about what I want to do, met Jerry, moved back to Australia to get to know him over 6 months, just a couple of days a week, because I thought whatever I want to do, I'm in, because I'm a very dedicated leader. And once I make a decision, I'm in. And we got to know each other. And, now I head up his startup company. And again, working for a startup company, we had, a handful of people, a couple of small properties. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this can either go this way or this way. And again, put myself out there, scared the hell out of me, what the hell I'm going to do. Moved into the franchise business, which is not even in Australia. It's big in your part of the world. And thinking, oh my God, what are we going to do? Let's go. And so something that scared me, put me out of my comfort zone, and brought me where I am today, by something that happened to me that it ended up creating opportunity. And I guess that's I get a great message is, and I always try to tell myself everything happens for a reason. And rather than looking at a challenge, I try to look at what is the opportunity here, because everything is about what is the opportunity. And so being made redundant, I saw it as an opportunity, and brought me to where I am today in my current role.
I love that story. And again, I agree with you very much. Every disappointment, every challenge is actually an opportunity also. And I'm so glad that you were able to use that time on the beach to reset yourself and have a fresh start. That's actually a good thing. Absolutely. Like you said, everything happens for a reason, right?
I got to tell myself that, and I tell my team that, because at the time it can seem very daunting, and but it's okay. We always get through.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the mentors and sponsors in your life. You've had some very good ones that no doubt have imparted in you some very good advice. Would you mind to share some of those advice that you have received?
Sure. Look, I've had some, you're right, David, I have amazing mentors that, are still my mentors today. And I remember from that, when I took on that first resort that I told you about as my first GM role. And I remember Ziggy said to me, Craig, it's okay not to know everything, right? Because being a young guy, you're like, yes, I know everything. And sometimes you can't be told. And he said, it's okay. It's okay not to know everything. It's okay to say, I don't know. So as a young guy coming up through the business, where you always want to impress and do the right thing. So great career advice is, it's okay if you don't know. Put your hand up and say, I don't know. Can you teach me? Can you tell me more? It's okay to ask the question. Yeah, ask the question. And he said to me, you know what, Craig, I would rather someone ask me 10 questions and ask nothing and fail. Right? But he said, but don't continue to ask me the same question. That's a good advice, So that was great advice for me, and I take that with me right now. The great career advice that I had, I remember I was working with Patrick Imbardelli, who's a great hotelier, you would know, and at Pan Pacific Hotel Group. And he always say, Craig, be yourself. I always say to everyone, because Patrick is himself. Patrick is Patrick. But he always would say to me, Craig, when you have that time with people, whether it's 5 minutes or 2 minutes, give them, that's their time. That's their time. So if it's 2 minutes, don't look at your phone, because we're terrible at it. Just give people that time. And Patrick was so good at it. When you had 1 minute with him, you knew you had him for that 1 minute. He says, so make sure you give people that time.
Wow. That's really fantastic advice. I really like that. So many times we talk to our superiors and they're looking at their watch, they're checking the email while they're talking to you.
Yes.
How do we feel, right?
Yes. And look, I'll be honest, I'm still guilty of it every now and then. Absolutely. I still have to remember that every now and then.
That's wonderful advice. Well, thanks for sharing that. But We all know that having good mentors and advocates in our career is so important to our success. How does one go about finding mentors and advocates?
Look, what I said earlier is about putting yourself out there. You have to build your own brand, build your of who you are with regards to. And I've been doing it for a long time. Even when I was a general manager, I would go to the hospitality conferences. I would say I'd get to know the organizer of the conference, and I know there's a big conference in Australia called AHICE, and James Wilkinson started this conference, maybe 13, 14 years ago, and I got to know James because he also had a hospitality newsletter that come out every month. Got to know him, and I got on the panel on his first conference. And back then it was like, I think maybe 80 people at the conference. Now it's one of Australia's biggest conferences. It's now over 4 countries, have over 1,000 people next week in Adelaide. And, it's about putting yourself out there, sitting on that panel. And then you get to meet people that, you're sitting next to CEOs. I'm just this little guy from, running this hotel in Melbourne, and on a panel with some great leaders. And then you get to meet people and you get your name out there, and then people show interest and you give your card, and then you go and sit at the conference lunch at a table with people you don't know. So speak to people, put yourself out there, do something that makes you feel uncomfortable, and just continue to do that. The opportunities are not going to come to you. And find a mentor. Mentors don't knock on your door. You need to knock on their door, right? And if for those who think that it's going to come to them just because you're, for whatever reason, it doesn't come to you. You have to make it happen.
Right. And you just talked about the two-part equation, which is you've got to have a good personal brand. People have got to want to help you first. Why would they want to help you?
That's right.
To prove yourself that you're sincere, you are genuine, you have integrity and honesty and all those good things, and you are a good performer. That's how people would want to help you.
That's right.
And then you have to put yourself out there, and you got to ask for help.
Yeah, because if you don't, how do people know you? As one of my colleagues said to me the other day, Craig, but you don't need to go on that panel because everyone knows you. And I said, but I want everyone to know you. I said, because I don't need to go on the panel for people to know. I do it because I love it and I love to give back to the business. But you need to get out there so people go, I'll contact you to get on that panel, right? Otherwise, no one's going to contact you if they don't know you. You have to put yourself.
Right. That's right. Very well said. Let's talk about work-life harmony. You've always had a hectic schedule, and you've got great demands at home too. How do you balance the two? How do you achieve harmony?
David, I'm not good at it, to be honest with you. I'm actually pre-COVID very bad at it because I travel so much, and COVID sort of reset me. But and now that business normality is back and travel is full on again, is that it's something that I need to be very mindful of, because in hospitality, I guess in any business, when you love what you do so much, you have to remember that there is love in your work and there is love in your own personal life, and you have to try and find that balance. But in our business, we are so good at saying yes. We are so good at wanting to please people, go the extra mile to help people out, or, I'll fly in one day earlier to come and see you. And it's something that I continue to work on. I'm not great at it. I love what I do professionally, and sometimes that does take center stage. So it's something that, that I work on and try to get better at. And I'm not getting any younger. So some of it is with me, and I'm not sure I can change it, but you just have to be mindful. Is that part of your professional journey is because of your family and the people that your loved ones around you, and you can't leave them behind.
That's right. I always say that the way that I survived COVID was because of my support network. Mm-hmm. And that is comprised mainly of the family as well as the team that I had. But the family is such an important part to my support network.
Yes.
I have to pay attention to it. All right. Well, thinking back to the days when you were a general manager for the first time, you were that guy that knew everything. But
I thought I did, mate.
But what's the advice that you give to your younger self at that time?
the advice that I give myself, wow, listen a little bit more. If I could give advice to myself back then, just listen more, slow down a little bit. It's it doesn't need to be a sprint. It can be a jog. You will get still to the end. And probably just maybe take the time out to enjoy it a little bit more, because it's so focused on the job at hand. Is that I worked in some amazing place. I think, wow, I wish I would have experienced some of those places a little bit more, rather than being in the hotel and doing everything that come with my job. So I think I've had a great time and a great journey, but I would have loved to maybe just experienced it a little bit more outside of the four walls or the fence of the resort, and slow down, because you'll still get to the end. But you may experience a little bit more locally and outside of that box.
Yeah, I wish I had slowed down a little bit too when I was starting off in my career. But at that time, you are working hard, and
yes,
you are striving to move ahead, and
yes, so
we're
true.
just wired to work very hard and don't pay enough attention to ourselves or the loved ones around us. So
yes,
we have to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, and it happened. Look at us now. We still, we still do it. I'm about to travel from next week, and I think I'm doing. Plus, I'm taking a holiday with my wife, which would be great. But I'm doing 17 flight legs from the 11th of May, and we go across maybe 6 countries. So so call me crazy,
Okay, well, we're coming to the end of the show, but before I let you go, can you share one more piece of advice? And it's on self-empowerment, because our show is about self-empowerment.
Sure. Yeah, look, believe in oneself. Yeah, if you don't believe in yourself, you have to start from there. So for me, it's about believing in yourself. Failure is part of the journey. It's okay. It's okay, and I think that's how you learn by your failures, and failure is part of the journey. And I look at the business I'm in now, is that being a startup, it's okay. It's part of the journey. You have to trust your instinct. If you trust yourself, that's where it starts. It starts from here. So trust yourself. Think big. It's okay. I love people that think big, think outside of the box, think a little bit crazy. You don't have to think big, conventional. And finally, just love what you do. When you love what you do, the rest comes naturally. It really does. And if it doesn't get you up out of bed every day, go find something that does.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I especially like what you said, the first thing that you said, which is to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, why would anyone believe in you?
Correct. So true.
It's really important that we believe in ourselves.
Yes.
We can have failures, but with that belief in ourselves, we will eventually prevail.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your wisdom. It's been delightful. I appreciate your sharing your stories and your wisdom with us. Thank you.
Thank you, David. It's been a real pleasure, and I appreciate your time so much. And again, thank you, and wish you all the best, and hope to see you at one of these conferences, of which I'm sure I will very soon.
One of these conferences. And to the audience, if you enjoyed this show, I hope you would join us on our website, deiadvisors.org. You'll see plenty other interviews of this nature. It's great having you, Craig, and thanks to the audience for joining us.
Thanks to the audience, and thanks to you again, David. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Right.